Okay, Brie T episode 7. Take 1. Hi everyone, it's your girl Brie T and welcome back to a new episode of Brie T TV. And I'm really excited, but I also want to extend my apologies for this video not coming Saturday. So February, not Black History Month, February whooped my ass when it came to sicknesses because I work in an environment with people who have horrible personal hygiene and they're just gross. And I seem to be attacked left and right with their grossness. And so I was just coming over a cold after getting over another cold to the point where I was just like, send me to the hospital, wrap me up, I'm done. I wanted to film this, but my voice was like super duper scratchy. I was still hurting to talk, so I kind of got better. So this video is coming to you Sunday, tomorrow. Well, you'll be watching it actually Sunday. Yeah, it was a bad time. So hopefully with February, not Black History Month, over, I can get back into the swing of things and be on time with everything. But moving on to the actual video. So today's video, we're going to talk about, as you can tell from the title, being a filmmaker or a creator on your own. More so a filmmaker because that's where my endeavors, where I want to go with my endeavors. And not having the resources of going to a film school. So while I did have an advantage among other creators who don't have the affordability to go to a 4-year college, I didn't study film. I studied media production, which was kind of just tapping into radio, TV, documentary, filmish, things like that, music videos, audio, podcast. Which is nice. I have a wide array of skills technically. But like I said, I want to be a filmmaker. And I didn't go to film school. And how can you do that? So this video is really just like 10 tips or tricks that I've picked up in my endeavor of producing a film on my own now. I tried to do one in the spring of 2018. No, spring of 2019, excuse me. And it was just the worst film ever. It was shot on an iPhone. It was no budget. I know, it was like $30 on like a tripod thing. It wasn't the best. It wasn't the best. I wasn't paying attention to location. I didn't location scout. Everything I know now I didn't do. And then I produced a film and directed a film, but I was part of a group of directors and producers for Stolen Crown, which is a film that I wrapped my undergrad degree with. And now I'm attempting and exploring the idea of shooting my own film on my own with a set budget. But again, I didn't go to film school. And I don't have a film degree. I don't have a master's in film. And so there's disadvantages and advantages, but there's also avenues to kind of work around that. So these are things that I've learned that I want to share with the budding filmmaker or creator, because you can just remove film and just adapt to whatever your creative endeavor is when it comes to digital media. So number 1, pre-production. Do your research. And you can call it research, you can call it pre-production. You need to do this before you pick up a camera. Picking up a camera, you should know in your head how you want your story to start and how you want it to end and what that sandwich looks in the middle. Do your research, print copies or make a digital folder where all your articles are stored. Do surveys. I've learned that surveys are really helpful, and it's kind of like, well, why the fuck do I need a survey when I'm making a film? Well, you need to test out if the audience you're envisioning is actually the audience that's going to benefit from your film. So do surveys. Write out a list of at least 20 questions, multiple choice, true or false, short answer questions on Google survey or whatever the hell it's called, Google Forms, and send it out to people you think you want to reach with this film. That will give you a better insight of what they are taking from your general idea. An idea that hasn't been fleshed out, but it's kind of like your elevator pitch. Give them your elevator pitch and see what they're taking from that with no visual aid. If you take that information, you can actually see if the audience you're envisioning are actually going to be worth your time when you create this, and that this film is going to be worth their time watching. This saves for a lot of confusion and a lot of like projects not taking off right away, or even when you're pitching it to a group that you want to help fund it, you now know I can prove that this audience that I'm talking about is going to enjoy this. Another part of why research is important, you need to know your shit. I'm a documentarian. I like making documentaries. While documentaries can be one-sided truth, I still need facts. So while I don't have to necessarily, play both sides, I remember one professor, Christine, said that documentaries are like little T's. They're the little truths. So you can tell that a documentary is kind of biased based on where it's going, but it's still factual in some of the key points that they're pointing out. So knowing your facts, knowing that there's facts to your arguments that you're making in your documentary. For example, I did a documentary on Stolen Crown, which was based on natural hair discrimination in the workplace and just natural hair discrimination and how it relates to the intimate relationship between a black man and woman and their hair. I needed facts to back up that natural hair discrimination is a real thing and it's a tool of racism, because that's where we were taking the project. If I didn't have any concrete cited source, no one was ever going to believe that I was talking real shit. They would have been like, okay, that's your opinion. I needed facts. Also, with doing like factual research, you can kind of pinpoint who to talk to, who to feature in your film, how to feature it. And so pre-production or research, that phase is super important. Always see that through, and keep in mind that could take months. That can absolutely take months to encompass. It's just pre-production. Number 2, talk about your project to people. Bounce your idea off of other creatives. And number 2A or B, don't think that no. Number 2, talk to other creatives. Bounce your idea off. The more you talk about your idea, the better it is. The more you talk about your idea, the easier it is to pitch it. And at the end of the day, sometimes you're going to have to pitch it to people. You're going to have to pitch it to people you're crowdfunding. You're going to have to pitch it to your audience to get them to help crowdfund and fund your project. You're going to have to pitch it to somebody who has a grant for you. Or you're just generally going to pitch it to people you want them to watch. As easy and free as that is, just clicking on a YouTube or a Vimeo link, you need to pitch it. You need to get this well-rounded, exciting, entertaining pitch. And the only way that's going to happen is if you talk about your idea. And that leads me into number 3. Don't think that just because you're talking about your idea, someone wants to steal your idea. Don't get too wrapped up in that I'm going to tell another creative this bomb-ass documentary idea and they're going to run with it. Even if they do, or even if I give a room of 20 documentarians the idea of natural hair discrimination, I have then 20 different documentaries and none of them are going to look the same. So keep that in mind. Just because you tell another creative your idea and they may run and steal it, your pieces are going to look entirely different. Because what you didn't tell them is your vision. Why? Because your vision shifts as you film your idea. Okay? Number 4, utilize research. Utilize free resources like a website called No Film School or something like that. That website is amazing and it actually connects with a lot of different filmmakers who are sharing their opinions and their experiences, and they also link things like grants that are available for your film or tips and techniques that you would possibly learn in a film school if you don't have the affordability to go to a film school or the accessibility of film school. Utilize websites like that, forums like that filmmakers are giving to other filmmakers what they've learned in certain spaces that are not accessible to every filmmaker or creative out there. Keep in mind though, that may not be the be all end all, and you might want to take 4 to 5 different websites that are like No Film School and kind of piecing that together. And number 5, have a budget and be okay with crappy-ish equipment. Especially if you're doing this on your own, keep in mind that budgeting yourself and reminding yourself of what kind of equipment you're using is going to help you in the long run, or just what it's helped me. Now, I'm fresh out of college. I work 2 jobs, and I have 2 dogs. I don't have a lot of money to spare, and it took me a while to even afford to get a Canon T7, not even a T7i. So with that being said, most of my filming equipment comes from places like Amazon or B&H. They have a lot of good affordable equipment. My backdrops may have been something that I've pinched together from stuff that I've had, or some of my equipment has even been borrowed from some of my friends. I know my budget, and now starting a new film, I know that my budget is going to reflect the accessibility of my film and vice versa. So while I want an Oscar award winning film, I know that my equipment isn't what Oscar award winning films use, but I can still make a great film. And I also know with my budget, based on what I have for transportation, I know how far I can go when it comes to getting my interviewees for my film. Number 6, be realistic when it comes to your idea. That should have been number 1. But you can apply these in the order you want to, except pre-production. That should always come after. But keep your idea realistic when you're coming up with an idea for your short film or documentary or however full-length film you want to do. Keep it realistic to the fact that you are a first-time filmmaker, or you're under budget, or you're a low-budget filmmaker, or you're a filmmaker like me that didn't go to film school, which is the whole point of this video. Keep that in mind. Be realistic. I know everyone, when you pick up your camera or you're about to create something, you want it to be award-winning worthy. But if you think like that and you compare your work to award-worthy content, which is subjective because I don't ever really agree with anything that gets an award, except Parasite. That was a great movie. You are gonna just self-sabotage your film from the moment you decide what your idea is, because you're not being authentic. Your film should reflect your capabilities, not you trying to mirror somebody who has $1 million budget, because that's just going to make your film and make you see your film as shitty quality, and then that's how your audience is going to see it, and then they're not going to trust you again. So keep your idea realistic. Keep your idea realistic to a low or no budget. Keep your idea realistic to a low or no audience engagement for the first part, the beginning part of your film process. Keep it realistic to your location and your accessibility to free locations, and keep it realistic when it comes to your capabilities. Number seven, when it comes to when it comes to making a short film or a documentary, in my experience, visuals mean everything. They kind of mean a little bit more than what your story is about, to an extent, because you have to think of your short film as trying to prove to people you know what the fuck you're doing. And I learned that when I was doing Stolen Crown, that soft lighting and the angle and the close-up technique and the moment we decided to shift the camera, that all had to be deliberate because we needed to deliver engaging visuals. You don't have a name yet, and I don't. I'm not a Spielberg. I'm not a Duvernay yet, that people are just going to look at my name and know that it's great and then trust my name. So I have to show them with visuals that I know what I'm doing. So for your first film, keep in mind that your visuals are going to have to carry your film a little bit more than the actual story. And that leads us into number 8. Make sure that you're not running on cliches. Your story is unique to you, and like I said, I could give a documentary topic to 20 documentarians and get 20 different topics, but that's because they know what cliches to avoid, and you should know that too. So that doesn't mean every documentary you do or every film you do should have a happy ending or a satisfied ending. You can use a cliffhanger. You can do this. And I think the best way to keep in mind on how to avoid cliches is actually watching content that you want to explore that genre. So for my case, I would watch documentaries. I like investigative and emotional documentaries. So I would find documentaries like that and watch what the directors and the producers decided to do. and not mirror it, but take note on what I liked as an audience and what I liked as a director, and then kind of pinpoint what I'm capable of replicating or using when it comes to my film, and what kind of story flow they used more so than visuals. How was it engaging? Did they avoid cliche? What was I able to tell what was going to happen before it actually happened? Did that bother me? And that's how you can kind of avoid cliches when you're telling your story and picking the flow of your story. Number 9, editing. Post and production. So before you head over to post-production and edit, it's best to keep in mind that you should have an editing eye when you're filming. There should be times when you're filming something and you're saying like, oh shit, that kind of looks weird. Okay, we're going to let the scene run through and then we're going to fix it. And then now you have 2 different angles or 2 different shots to compare about the same scene. And that's true when you go to post. When you go to post, again, it kind of goes back to being realistic and also going back to keeping in mind that your visuals are going to carry the bulk of your film, and it's going to carry a little bit more power when it comes to your audience. Keep your editing realistic. Do not try to throw in like sparkling transitions or like unique transitions and this kind of jazz. A documentary is literally a straight through story. No one really needs that over dazzled transition or that over pizzazzed movement or motion or graphic. Know your editing style, one, realistically to your film, but also that just because you got great visuals, if you overdo it in editing, your visuals don't mean shit. So with editing, just like with shooting and getting your visuals, keep it simple, keep it realistic, and understand and keep in mind that this is where the magic does happen and this is where your audience is going to interpret most of your film. And number 10, don't be afraid to collaborate. Do not be afraid to ask for help or opinions. If you're working with a crew on your first film, and even though you're the director and executive producer, your camera person, your lighting person, your mic person may have caught something you didn't, or they may have as an audience member, because again, just because they're behind the camera doesn't mean they're not watching. Right? They're watching, and a part of their brain is an audience and not just a technical side. Value their opinions, even though the opinion may be miles away from what you envision in pre-production, which can happen. Keep that opinion in mind, because again, this is valued information. If you just are like a dictator and just like, I'm not changing anything, I'm not listening to anybody's opinion, what I envision in pre-production is what I'm going to produce, your film is not going to work. Also, you just burn several bridges that you need when you're doing your next film. So be a collaborator even on a project that you didn't think you had to collaborate. And now, I say that you don't have to take everyone's idea and apply it to your film, but I think it's important to have 4 or 5 different views of people who don't have a complete hand in the pot, right? Just because their camera work or their lighting or their sound, their name isn't gonna be like director. So you shouldn't take it to heart and then hurry up and change your film based on their opinions, but keep in mind that these people have been on various shoots, or they're seeing something that you're focused on something else and they caught something, and that can be really valuable. And it also, or they, for example, you can end a shoot and you say, okay, what did you guys think about that? Again, they're not director, they're not producer, their line and their reputation aren't really on the line, but somebody might say, oh, this quote that they said stuck with me. And that quote can very well change the direction of your film in such a brilliant way, but you weren't really listening because you were doing a director's job. So that's where you should be a collaborator. Make your crew or whoever you're working with, or show people your rough cuts and let them feel valued in their opinion. So they're going to share critiques that are going to help you. And take critiques in mind. Like, do not just brush them off. Number 11, because I'm just adding an extra in there as I thought about it. make sure you storyboard. It's really important to write out your film when you're going through the phases. And I say storyboard when you're in pre-production, write out a storyboard from start to finish of your film. When you're during post-production, make a new storyboard based on what you're finding, or every time you do a scene, storyboard that scene and keep it with your previous storyboard, and then kind of see how that plays out when you get into post, and compare the two storyboards and see where your story left and where it changed and how it navigated through the different interviews you had or different scenes you shot. Because I think when you document your storyboard too, that kind of helps when you're in the moment of actually filming or even editing, of where your mind was when you angled this shot, when you interviewed this person, when you got that quote, when you got that sound bite, when you got that nat sound. It can help you in production when you're setting up the next scene or trying to figure out where to go with that location, and it can help you in post to figure out why that scene was even important. So definitely storyboard and write and document your entire journey. But that's all I have. It's 10 and that's what I have for you today. 10 tips plus one on how to be a filmmaker with no film school. All the links I talked about, I'm gonna link them down below. Actually, yeah. I'll link them down below in the description box so you can peruse, especially no film school. I actually like that resource. It helps a lot. I'll also link down several different programs or grant sites if you're interested in getting funding for your film, so you can actually dedicate time to make a film. You don't need a degree to prove that you have a degree in filming. You just have to pitch your idea to these certain funders that, you know, want to give you money to see this film come alive. And yeah, that's how I navigate my experience of making a film. These tips are subjective. Maybe they don't work for you, or maybe you have better tips. Leave them down in the comment section below. What has worked for you when you're a filmmaker or just a video creator, and what have you learned? And these are just the 11 tips that popped into my head when I was writing down this video. So there are definitely more tips I can give out. So if you are interested in seeing an updated version after I complete my newest film, let me know and I'll definitely get ready to do that. And that's it for this episode of Brie T TV. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. I like when you guys comment. It makes me really happy. Make sure you share the video, you subscribe to the channel, and I'm going to be revamping the website, so I'll let you know on Instagram. Oh, follow us on Instagram at Brie T TV com. That's Brie T TV com. So you can get more updates, because I'm revamping the website pretty soon. And that's all for this episode. As I said, I'm your girl Brie T. I can't wait to see you guys next week at 8 p.m. on Saturday. Bye, guys.